Hello and welcome to this AfterMaths episode of the Primary Maths Podcast, the show where we talk all things primary maths. With me, John Cripwell.
And with me, Becky Brown.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Becky. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, John. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. And I think we can say with some certainty now, Becky, that we've made it. I think for everybody now, it's the summer holidays.
Yeah.
If you're listening up in Scotland, you've probably only got about 2 weeks of the summer holidays left, actually, at this point. But for everybody else, I think now it's official. Yeah, we are there. We are there. We need
well done, everyone.
Party poppers and hats and stuff like that. So expect the weather to change completely. Heat wave done now, I would imagine. Bring on the rain. And although, you know, as everybody who's been watching Clarkson's Farm will know, we need the rain, just not too much of it.
Yeah, we do. I'm not a Clarkson's Farm watcher, although it has been recommended, so it feels like something I need to...
You really should. Look, again, in no way sponsored by Jeremy Clarkson or Diddley Squat Farm, but I think you don't have to be a particular fan of Jeremy Clarkson to appreciate it. It's it's really interesting. It's really interesting, and quite funny. And the fact that he is so useless at everything as well, you know, just adds to that. So, yeah.
Well, now the summer of sport is gradually coming to an end. Gradually, I'll got through my watch list. Tour de France has got
This is true.
I'll add it to my list.
Did you? Oh, we've got the Commonwealth Games starting, of course. I know. So, but it's a very reduced Commonwealth Games. Again, we've managed to go completely off maths before we've even started here. But I'm going to bring some numbers into it. Did you enjoy the World Cup?
I did, for the most part. You know.
Yes. Yeah. So, this is obviously the first World Cup with a greater number of teams, 48 teams compared to 32 that usually take part, which is interesting, and they're talking about increasing it to 64, I think, next time, possibly, or 68 maybe. But one thing I think we do have to bear in mind with all that sort of stuff is that it will completely mess up the stats, won't it? Because, you know, players are playing more games now, so in terms of golden boots and numbers of goals scored and all that sort of thing, you know, there's going to be far more opportunities to score goals or concede goals or whatever in a competition with more games.
It's going to make those comparisons more tricky, won't it? Although use it to their advantage, I'm sure, as we've talked before, you know, you've got to make the stats work for you sometimes, haven't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I just, from a numbers point of view, I think it's something to bear in mind. And of course, it is all change at the top, Becky. And I'm not talking about the Spain winning the World Cup. I'm talking, of course, about number 10. We have a new Prime Minister, which feels like much less of a out of the ordinary thing than it would have done a few years ago. But yes, we have Andy Burnham now as our PM.
We do, and a new Education Secretary as well, John.
And a new Education Secretary as well, which I'll come on to in a moment. But I'm going to put you on the spot, Becky.
Oh, no.
Because this was an interesting stat that came up yesterday, and I know that you like an interesting stat, and I know that you like being put on the spot, being asked to guess. So whenever there is, and again, I'm not taking political sides here, whenever there's a change of Prime Minister within a parliament,
yeah,
that there's usually a call from somebody on the opposition to say, now there should be a general election because this person has no mandate, whatever, even though that disregards our system of electing an MP and the leader of the party being the Prime Minister, etc. We don't have a presidential system, do we? So I was going to say I had a look back. That's not true. I came across an interesting stat. So there have been 19 prime ministers since World War II. 7 in the last 10 years, actually, but 19 since the end of World War II.
Okay.
How many of those were elected to become prime minister, do you think? So out of 19, how many do you think campaigned, had an election, and were appointed prime minister as a result of their party winning a general election?
Okay, out of 19, I have no clue. I'm just going to take a stab in the dark. Of 19, I think 14.
14, which feels sensible, doesn't it? It
I don't
feels
know.
like there should be more people became prime minister as a result of winning a general election than became prime minister because they took over from somebody else.
Yeah.
So the answer is either 7 or 8.
Oh, okay. So less than half.
Less than half, yeah. You're much more likely to become prime minister by taking over the role, inheriting the role from somebody else, than you are to actually win an election and become prime minister. Of course, some prime ministers continue to be prime ministers having won an election after becoming prime minister. So we're not talking about how many prime ministers have won elections, but in terms of becoming the prime minister in the first place, the answer is 7 or 8. Now, do you know why it's 7 or 8?
No.
Which prime minister do you think might be throwing a slight curveball here?
I don't know. I feel like I should know.
Yes, I think you should know. So it's a chap, you may have heard of him, a guy called Winston Churchill. Yes. So he took over, obviously, from Chamberlain during World War II. No election. At that point, there were no elections during the war. He took over and then subsequently lost the first election after World War II, and so was no longer prime minister, but then won an election to become prime minister again. So if you include him winning that election to become prime minister, then it's 8 out of the 19. But if you say, well, he was already prime minister before, then it's 7. Okay. But yeah, much less than half. So that's surprising. Not unusual. And again, that's where statistics. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You sort of feel like surely you win an election and become prime minister, but actually you're much more likely to take over the role from somebody else. As you say, somebody else who's taken over the role this week, seamless link there, Lucy Powell. So Lucy Powell has, of course, taken over from Bridget Phillipson. And at the time of recording this, I don't know if you saw the Teacher Tap survey that came out today that said that more teachers were disappointed with Bridget Phillipson leaving than any of the previous, I think it may be 7 education secretaries, many of whom I would struggle to name, actually. I'm not going to put you on the spot there, Becky. No. I did meet, I had Nikki Morgan come into my classroom, actually, when I was teaching in Year 6. She was on a bit of we had the local news and things, and she was doing a tour of a couple of the schools in Derby, and she came to my class when she was education secretary. I'm in the background of some local news footage, but yes, a new education secretary, Lucy Powell. So she, I don't know if you know much about her. Guess where she is from, Becky? Guess where she's from?
I know the answer to this.
You know the answer, yeah. So Andy Burnham appointed her. Guess where she's from?
She's from Manchester.
She is from Manchester, yeah. But she went to local state schools, so not a public school person, before going on to study chemistry at university. And she's been an MP for Manchester Central since 2012, so a long time in Parliament. And she was Shadow Education Secretary for a year between 2015 and 2016. So obviously 10 years ago, but at the time we've got some ideas about what she liked in education and what she opposed in education at the time. She was particularly critical of excessive prescription, which is interesting. Testing and kind of central control, teachers being dictated to. And there was a quote that I found that said that she felt like from the teachers that she'd spoken to, some of the joy had gone out of teaching. And I think that's probably not a sentiment that many teachers would argue with, is it?
I also read that does she come from a family of teachers, or I know she is not a teacher, but I think her parents or one of her parents might have been a teacher, or she has teaching in her background, which is quite interesting. I feel like if you live and are around teachers, that gives you a bit of a different perspective, which is quite good to know.
Yeah. Couple of quotes from the NEU, from the unions. They've said that her experience as Shadow Education Secretary, they believe, will allow her to hit the ground running. But of course said that there was much to do and no time to waste. Again, I think that's fairly obvious. The NAHT, they have talked about practical issues for school leaders, which, again, nothing new here. Funding, SEND, recruitment, retention, and continuity in terms of policy. And I think for anybody that's worked in education for longer than a week would probably agree that actually continuity is one of those things that has been missing from education for a little while now. And I really hope that there's not going to be some huge change in direction because we've got a new education secretary. But there must be a reason that she has been brought in and Bridget Phillipson has been replaced.
Yeah, definitely. And what an interesting time for this to happen. You know, we're already in the middle of a really big period of discussion and change, and we're already expecting, the new curriculum. I wonder what impact this will have, if any. Like you say, continuity is really important. I remember a change of government where there was a big plan going forward and then it all just went. This is not quite the same thing, I know, because the government's staying the same. But yeah, interesting time to take over.
One of the things that I thought was interesting was that in this big reshuffle that Mr. Burnham oversaw in his first 24 hours, was that Georgia Gould, who is the Minister for SEND Education, she's kept her job. Which again, when we talk about continuity and the SEND reforms that are currently going through, hopefully that's an indication that work is going to continue. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean nothing will change, but hopefully, I was talking to one of our colleagues, Georgina Durant, yesterday, who was very keen that that Georgia Gould stayed. She was really hoping that she stayed in position because, I say, all those reforms that are currently going through are very much depended on, well, her amongst other people, I think, to push them through. So, yeah, watch this space, I suppose.
Absolutely. Time will tell.
Thank you so much for that little segue. Speaking of time, Becky, God, we're professional. Honestly, it's almost like we planned this. Because this is the first of our now annual summer specials, we're going to be focusing much less on teaching and classroom talk during the summer weeks because we need a break from it. Frankly, certainly you do, listeners. So we're going to take a slightly more light-hearted approach. If you caught our summer specials last year, they're really a bit of a maths focus, but more on interesting things that we've come across and less on teaching. Is that fair, Becky?
I think that's fair. Often we accidentally move away from the maths a little bit quicker than planned, but there's maths in there somewhere, but much more light-hearted, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because obviously, ordinarily, we're very, very serious and hyper-focused. But yeah, we won't necessarily be talking hugely about pedagogy over the next 6 weeks. So if you want to take a break from us, that's okay. You won't miss anything in terms of teaching. But we hope you'll stay with us just for a bit of background noise, if nothing else, and more of a QI feel to other TV programs are available. More of a QI feel to the podcast over the next few weeks. And to start with, we are going back to one of our old favourites, Becky, which is time. Because I was thinking about this with the summer holidays on the horizon. We've been planning, what are we going to do over the 6 weeks? What are the children going to do? And I was just thinking back, when I was at school, certainly, definitely at primary school, but I think at secondary as well, the 6-week holiday felt like a separate geological era. Yes. Do you know what I mean? It stretched on forever.
On. And actually, lots of memories around that time fit within that little tiny 6-week period of things that we did during the holidays. Yeah, it felt like forever. It was lovely.
I mean, there was enough time to go on a holiday, to get bored, to watch stupid amounts of morning children's TV that wasn't normally on. I'm showing my age here, but back then, unless you had Sky or cable TV or something, that there wasn't any children's TV particularly on in the mornings. But all of a sudden, during the 6 weeks, you had BBC and ITV put special kids shows on for the 6 weeks, and you could sit there with your bowl of cereal and watch. Or certainly that's what I did, and watch that. You forgot what day it was. Go out and play with your mates, and then after you'd done all that, you still had about 3 years left until September was rolling round. There was just so much time. Whereas now, I feel as a teacher, as an adult with children, you break up, you maybe go to a barbecue, you put the bins out a couple of times, and then suddenly the shops are selling school uniform again, and it's time to start thinking about ordering school dinners.
Yes. Why is that? I feel like it feels like, it's over in a flash.
So why is that? Why is that? So I've tried to get to the bottom of this. Sadly, there is not really a definitive answer. But you might have heard of this before, this idea that time is proportional. So for a 6-year-old, a year is 1/6 of everything that they have experienced. Whereas for somebody who is 40, I'm trying to imagine what that might look like. I'll get there one day. Obviously, that's a 40th, a much smaller proportion of their life. And so psychologically, it feels like a year takes up a lot more space to a 6-year-old than it does to somebody in their 40s. This isn't necessarily scientifically backed, but there's some psychological evidence that might be the case. But I think one of the things that maybe does feel a bit more, that make it a little bit more sense, is this idea that childhood contains a lot more novelty. You are experiencing lots of new things as a child, genuine firsts. First time on holiday first time on holiday to different places, maybe first time swimming in the sea, first time being allowed out alone. All these things are firsts and therefore kind of core memories. Whereas as an adult, there's less novelty and more jobs, I think. More things to get done, don't you think?
Yeah, what a shame. And I guess the thing is, when you're a child, your routine can absolutely go straight out of the window. Somebody else probably organises the things that need to be organised. As an adult, you need to keep some semblance of routine. You've already mentioned putting the bins out, but doing the shop, making sure everybody else is ready to do the things they want to enjoy. Yeah, it makes me want to write a list, John, of new things I can do this summer. 20 new things to try.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's what we should do is try and find the novelty this summer. Because it's the same with Christmas, isn't it? When you're a child waiting for Christmas, Christmas feels like forever away. Even on like the 20th of December, it still feels like, another 4 sleeps till it's forever away. Whereas as a parent or an adult, you are more going, oh no, Christmas is almost here. I've still got X, Y, and Z to do, and all this needs wrapping, and I've got to send out these invites, and we've got to make sure we got everything for Christmas dinner, and the shops are closed. There's a lot more stress to it, isn't there? I think maybe being an adult. So yeah, maybe you're onto something there, Becky, with this idea of trying to find the joy and novel experiences.
Yeah, and listeners, if you've got any ideas of something new I could try in the summer holidays, let us know.
It's a whole breakaway podcast here, and again, this is going back a little bit, but Wikipedia, challenge Annika. If we could challenge Becky to 6 things she should do over the summer.
Yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be great. There's zero budget for this, so
I'm not doing
holidaying in the Maldives. I don't think we'll get that past accounts somehow, sadly. But it would be great to hear all about them in September.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. Absolutely, make a list. At least one new thing a week.
Yeah. There's a couple of other things that might play into this as well. Have you heard about the return trip effect, Becky? So the return trip effect is this idea that the journey home often feels shorter, even when it's the same distance. So when you're traveling to somewhere, the anticipation, I think, and the thoughts of all the things that you might do when you get there or whatever. The journey is something that you kind of got to get through to get to the thing that you want to do. Maybe for me, the return trip actually feels longer because the place I want to get to is bed, and it's a long way away. And I just want to get off this motorway. But there was some studies in 2011 that found that this return trip effect was genuine during bus travel, cycling, and car journeys. So even when you're on a bike, if it seems quicker to get home than it does on the outward journey. And the part of the explanation for that might be that we adjust our expectations as well. Having done the journey one way, we kind of adjust how long we expect it to take on the way back as well. But apparently it can happen even on a different return route. So it's not just a familiarity thing. It's there's definitely something about this idea that time behaves differently on our experiences, and psychological effects are very, very real.
That's great. I'm going to really think about these things when I go on holiday now, John. I mean,
But what age do you reckon, Becky? At what age do you think 6 weeks holiday stopped feeling enormous?
When I had to start going to work. I don't know, when I was 16, probably. I had to actually doing.
But you wouldn't have had 6 weeks holidays then, would you? Because you'd have been going to work.
Of course, yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. I remember that summer after you do your GCSEs, the summer is longer, isn't it? Because
yeah.
So I reckon the year after that, you suddenly realise that it's like. Oh.
I was trying to explain this to my youngest daughter because she will. My eldest daughter's secondary school don't have a sixth form. There's 5 years between youngest and eldest. So if they go to the same school, my eldest will leave, and then my youngest will start the following September. And the younger one said, well, at least we'll both be there for transition days. And I said, actually, no, because the older one will have left at that point. And she was outraged, absolutely outraged that you get a longer. I said, well, it will apply to you as well. But it's an interesting one because she said, well, why? I said, because they've done their exams at that point. And she said, but you've always said the point isn't just to do exams. Like, the point of school is so much more than that. I was like, yes, it's true. But I know what it's like having year sixes in the summer after SATs. I can't imagine trying to entertain year 11s in the summer after GCSE. So I completely empathise with secondary schools there.
Definitely. And of course, it used to be that you'd finish your GCSEs and lots of people would then go out to work. You wouldn't go on to sixth form, or you might go out and do an apprenticeship, or you might just go and get a job. Of course, you don't do that now. Everybody goes on to do something, whether it's vocational or otherwise. So, times change. But yeah, I remember that very long summer.
What other and it did. It stretched on forever, and it was brilliant because you were old enough to do what you wanted to do. Yeah. You had some autonomy, didn't you? Somehow, even though I would have had a part-time job, but I probably only earned about 20 quid a week or something. But I managed to make that £20 stretch an enormously long way. Yeah. I don't know. I never seem to run out of money back then. Now I get paid a lot more and it goes nowhere. What other things seem to feel longer? I was thinking about this. Going away for a week, does the week seem longer on holiday, or does it seem longer at home? And I think it's hard looking back as well, because I think your perception changes when you think back to these things.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like week-long holidays do maybe feel a bit longer than they used to. I don't know. It's hard to remember now.
It is hard, yeah. But that might be the novelty thing.
Yeah, true. Sure.
If you are interested in time, we have got a back catalogue of episodes all about time, because I was thinking about this as well. Before school holidays were our measurement of long periods of time. Obviously, there was a time when we didn't have standardised time in Britain, as anybody who listens to this podcast will know, and towns used their own time, and that's why church buildings had clocks on them because it was, so important that somewhere locally had a sense of time because people didn't have their own clocks and things. And there was no standardized time. Can you remember, Becky, why standardized time was brought in? Why people felt it, why it became necessary to have the same time in London as we have, for instance, in Newcastle?
I know we talked about this. We've done a lot of episodes, John.
We have, yeah.
Remind me.
Transport.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Transport timetable. So railways really created the problem. You needed to know when a train was due. I mean, even though that's a very loose estimate these days, but you needed to know when a train was due and when it was leaving a place and what time you would arrive at a place. So that was, and that's only a couple of 100 years ago. Yeah. Really. That travel became widespread like that. Before that, people just locally made up the time. But yes, we have lots of episodes all about time. So if it is something that you've listened to us now and you think, what are these two waffling on about? Go and have a look at the history of time. It genuinely is interesting. And then when you go back to your class in September, you can tell them all about it and bore them with it. Yeah. And it really does feature into, how you teach time as well, I think. But maybe that's just me.
And we love teaching.
I like being able to give context. You love teaching time.
You do.
I do not love teaching time, but I prefer it now that we've figured out a better way of teaching it. I would like to go and teach time. If anybody would like me to come and teach time to their year 2 class, then let me know, because I would be very much up for that. Yeah, that could be my challenge for the autumn term.
Find a love for teaching time.
Yeah, give me a shout. I will come and teach time in your class. Nobody's listening at this point, are they, Becky? We're 27 minutes in. That's fine. I will come and teach time in your class, and using the new representations and the new structure that we work so hard on, because I'm that confident that it's a better way to teach time, because children don't see analog clocks nearly enough anymore, and they see digital time everywhere. So yes, we did an episode on that as well. So if you're interested in that, go back and have a look. And I will put a link to our teaching time resources and a blog that I wrote all about it if you're interested in that new approach to teaching time. That's the only thing I'm going to say about teaching this week. I think that's probably all for us for this first summer special, Becky.
Yeah, it was great to have a nice light-hearted chat, John. We talked about all sorts of things and more to come next episode with a summary feel.
Yes, absolutely. Next episode, next week, we will be back wearing very, very similar clothes, thinking about probability and chance, actually. What are the chances of that? So, find out next week. In the meantime, we hope you have a brilliant first week of the summer holidays, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Thanks, Becky. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.